are. I'm Dr. Debbie Lassiter, the Executive Director and co-founder of the Convergence Resource Center, and we are welcoming you to CRC The Conversation, myself and my colleague.
Hi, I'm Carla McKeever, and I'm also co-founder and CFO for Convergence Resource Center, and welcome back to The Conversation.
Yeah, well, Carla, what are we going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about our Triumph support group and also material witness warrant. Whoa. And as I was looking that up, I just found that to be very interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
We watch too much TV when it comes to that one. But Carla, was there anything this week that just kind of caught your attention?
Well, the one thing that I was, I'm always trying to think what caught my attention, but there's no harm in giving advice. You might not take the advice right now.
Yeah.
Because I know people have said things to me and I'm like, why are they telling me that? But you know what? Somehow my mind goes back to what was told to me. And it was worthwhile them telling me, no matter how I felt at the time.
Well, I think the thing that really caught my attention or grabbed hold to me was that we still live in Wisconsin. And it can be 50 degrees one day. The next day it can be 20. It can go back up to 40 or 50. And the next day we can have a snowstorm. So variety in weather, variety in seasons, is one of the things that constantly reminds me that I live in Wisconsin. But you know what? I like it.
Okay.
Most people may not say that, but I do. But the service we're going to cover today is one that is really kind of dear to my heart. And that is the Triumph Support Group. That Triumph Support Group is the support group that launched my book, Triumph, Tamar's Remnant, an Upward Movement, Pursuing Healing. For those of you who don't know, yes, I am an acronym nut. But this is an 8-week support group that addresses discussions that we really want to have, especially in religious situations. There are certain things we just don't think are covered in a religious situation, but they are. And so I'm really excited about that support group and how it has helped women over the years. Took a long time to write, okay? But the women are still benefiting from it, and I'm excited about that. So, you're in a new topic, the material witness warrant. Before we start talking about what it is, but why don't you give us the definition of what it is, and then tell us what caught your attention about it. You said something about it made you think it was very interesting topic. I think one of the things for me is that the way it's shown on television, so to speak, but this is a reality, the material witness warrant. Why don't you give us the definition of it?
Well, the definition is a material witness is an individual who contains information, material, to a criminal proceeding. You always say, is that a material witness? With the authority of, I think it's, you say 18 USC 3144 of the United States government. You can look it up and it'll be a more of a clinical explanation than what I'm actually saying. But the government can seek a warrant from a judicial officer in order to arrest a material witness. The witness can be held until their testimony is disposed or obtained. That I had not thought about, but then I've seen some movies and I've seen some things where they'll have the witness in the hotel with the officers. You know, they're holding them until they go to trial because they have the information that's needed to prosecute. And I think even back, I can remember seeing some movies back in the gangster days.
You know, the gangster days is still here, right?
Yeah, they're still here. But, you know, but the things that we've seen are that, I think one was the accountant and they held him, until the trial because he had the information to be able to prosecute.
So I think many people always think that I have a choice as to whether or not I want to be a witness. But if you are deemed a material witness, they can issue a warrant for you and arrest you, right? If your testimony is germane to their case in a way that you're considered a material witness, you don't really have a choice. Now, the reason I wanted us to talk about this is because I want us to discuss how it's used in human trafficking. Keeping in mind that a person that is being trafficked or has come out of human trafficking being asked to testify against or provide witness testimony against the people that brutalized them, keeping in mind that sometimes human trafficking is not that guy standing on the corner with two girls working for him. Sometimes there are entire organizations, criminal organizations that are trafficking men, women, boys, and girls. So in human trafficking, victims can be arrested to secure their testimony. That's frightening to me, because the testimony can be critical to putting the traffickers behind bars, which we want, and it can be used against adults and or children. The problem here, and I don't think a lot of people think about this, the problem here is that many are reluctant to testify due to fear for their own safety. Now you see this on TV where they whisk people off to another state and give them another name and all that. That doesn't happen a lot. Okay, that's TV, y'all. Okay, but there's also fear of retaliation. Now, people may not remember this, but there was a girl that was going to testify against a trafficker. They walked up behind her on Silver Spring and shot her in the head.
Wow.
Right, but she could have been arrested for not testifying, or it could trigger flashbacks or some memories for them, and we don't think about that. What do we provide for them if we're going to ask them to testify? Are there services provided for them? And I think we've gotten a lot better at it than we were in the past, but it's still there. Also, they don't often have any legal representation.
Right.
Because they're a witness. So they're taking their chances. And then sometimes they can't find them for them to testify, hence the material witness warrant. So if we had to take a look at this, Carlin, we did decide what would be some other options that you think we could possibly try to use to avoid putting people in this kind of danger? Because we're in a straight betwixt two. We need the traffickers arrested, but we can't do it without evidence and testimony, right?
Right, and if you think about it, this is the reason that a lot of people won't testify.
It is.
Because there is no protection. Budgets have been cut. Departments have been cut. So there is no real witness protection as it used to be. And I mean, years ago, there was a witness protection and they cut that. So people were getting killed because of retaliation, because no one's protecting them. The other part of that is just fear for my family if I was to testify. Because you figure the circles that you go in, it's not as easy. I know that some federal witnesses or federal people, they end up being moved to another city or relocated, but that doesn't happen all the time. It just doesn't happen all the time. And then when you have someone that is in fear of retaliation and already suffering, like you say, from flashbacks, how do you combat that? How do you make a law that we can have someone there on hand to help and to get you through this until the trial? And then what happens after the trial?
Oh, yeah.
What happens after that?
Yeah, these people have long memories. Years and years they waste sometimes. Now, we're not trying to scare people off from testifying.
No.
Because we need testimony to put people away. But sometimes there's enough evidence without the person having to testify to convict the person. And then again, there's the other side of that shoe of, well, if this is all you have, do you really have enough to prosecute? So it is really tough. It's easy to sit back and complain about the way people are doing their jobs, right? But when you think of all sides of this issue, it's a tough thing to do.
It is tough.
It's a tough thing to be able to do. But nevertheless, we need it done. So how? And we ask you that, audience. How? Send us in some suggestions or ways you think it could be done. Now, people say film the testimony, right? Well, then who gets a chance to cross-examine? That's a thought, right?
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to be, and then what about being able to face your accuser? there's that, right? So there are so many pieces to this. And if there are suggestions, we'd love to hear them so that we could pass them on to the judicial system, because they're in a tough place. It's not easy. It's not like it is on TV. It's not like they get convicted today and then tomorrow they find out how much time they're going to get. Sometimes it takes years for them to find out their sentencing. So I think material witness warrant, something I hadn't thought about a whole lot before, but now look at it a little bit differently as we looked into it more. Yeah. Anything else on that for you, Carla?
No, I say no, and then I'm always has something else to say.
That's the way the ball rolls, man.
But you know what? I think it is something that we do need in certain instances, but I still don't know how I would feel if I was put in that position. And so sometimes when I look at things, I try to put myself in that position and how would I feel about that?
Yeah.
You know, would I be scared of retaliation or retaliation against my family? Would I want to be arrested until the trial? And you know how sometimes trials can go all the way out. I mean, years sometimes. They can delay and delay. So how long can they hold you? But yet it's still needed to prosecute.
And I think in some ways, I think this was kind of used to combat the situation where somebody could testify, but they were refusing to testify because of allegiance to the person. So this material witness warrant kind of gets around that. You know, it makes you like, oh, well, that's my boyfriend. I'm not going to testify against him, even though I saw him do all that, you know. So I think that they tried to get around that, but you're right. What if it was me? What if it was another person that's listening to this podcast that's being forced to testify and they're afraid of the retaliation? You know, as much as they say it, as much as they mean it, they really can't protect you against all that stuff, right?
Right.
We're not saying don't testify, but we're saying if there's another way, let's try that.
Yeah.
And keep people out of harm's way, because it is a slippery slope, really slippery slope, you know, but a necessary slope at the same time, right? At the same time. So, Carla, do you have some encouragement for folks today?
My encouragement would be, I know we have this quote by Martin Luther King.
Yeah, I can say that one if you want to say something else.
I do want to say that listening to this law, and if we go back onto this material witness, it's like, you know, you always pray that I can be strong enough to be able to do what is right, and what would be right would be for me to be able to testify, you know, no matter what happens, because people have to be accountable for what they do. You know, they should be accountable. They always try to blame someone else or get away with what they're doing. And I just ask for strength that, and maybe even some more programs that can help if someone does have to testify, to give them at least that second chance. Because a lot of times, I'm going back on what we're talking about, but a lot of times we'll want someone to do something, but then we just let them right back out the front door.
Oh, yeah. They're done.
They can't even go out the back door. They got to go out the front door. You know? So everybody can see.
Yes.
So I'm just, you know, hoping that maybe we can get some other type of program, some other type of laws that will protect those that have to be material witnesses.
That would be good. That would be good. Well, I kind of like this quote by Martin Luther King Jr., you know, because quitting is easy. You know, it's one of the easiest things you can do, because it allows you to stop everything you're trying to do and just walk away.